Hello, and thank you for joining me today. Well, this is the Friday, December 31st edition of our video devotionals, and that means it's the very last day of the year 2021. Happy New Year's Eve. And this is amazing. You know, it's always interesting the very last day of a year, and of course, then the first day, but something about closing out a year will, after midnight tonight, then there's nothing you can do that would apply to 2021. Everything in the future will be 2022 and on. So whatever good, whatever you want to do in 2021, well, we're very limited now. But at any rate, here we are. And on purpose, I've got a calendar above my head there, as you see it. This was one of the crafts my grandmother did. I think this was done in the 70s. And she would, from time to time, she worked a full-time job. She was a school cafeteria manager. And of course, busy. They had a little farm there. That's busy with things going on there. And this is one of the crafts that she made. Now, I'm pretty sure this was done as I was a kid, so it had to have been done in the 70s, and it could have been done even in the 60s. I don't know for sure about that, but at any rate, it's one of those where the little tiles slide out. You change the month and all of that. And you've probably seen them. These were ones I'm sure she painted the tiles and put the letters on there. So I change it out, each month. And so it's appropriate to have a calendar, I think, on the last day of the year. And of course, wonderful connection of my life to my grandmother. But it is the last day of the year. And here we are. So we have used as a theme the word account, or some word, that would be a derivative of it. Today we're going to look at the only time the word accounting is used in the Bible, and we're going to look at it today. Hebrews 11:19. There's many things you can say on the last day of the year, and of course we have our theme here, but I think this will be as appropriate as it could be, considering when you hear what I've got to say and what it says here in the Bible. So Hebrews 11:19 is the text verse. I think we want to read verses 17 and 18 and 19. So I'll let you find that. Otherwise, on this last day of the year, we've got some folks you've just joined us in the last couple of weeks, and then I've got folks that go all the way back to April of 2020. And by God's grace and will, both of us will go into the new year, and we'll keep right along. But I do appreciate those especially that go all the way back, and many of you that go all the way back daily, every day, you're faithful to say something kind or nice, or just acknowledge that you're watching. And I really do appreciate that, because there's many avenues you can get devotions from. Personally, you can just read your Bible or whatever, but the point is the fact that you do it every day. I really do appreciate it, and hopefully we're building a momentum together, just being faithful to God and trying to do the things that God wants us to do. So let's go ahead and jump into it. And it says here in Hebrews 11:17, we'll start there. It says, by faith Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Isaac, and he that had received the promises offered up his only begotten son, of whom it was said that in Isaac shall thy seed be called. Now notice this, accounting that God was able to raise him up even from the dead, from whence also he received him in a figure. So let's just look at this just a minute here, and then I've got some things written down here. When I look at the story here, we know that when Abraham took Isaac up to the mountain to offer him, and he never did technically take his life. We know that. He was at the point of doing it. He was going to do what God told him to do. But the Bible uses the language here, by faith Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Isaac. Now, certainly you could look at it and say, well, it doesn't literally mean that he took his life, but he offered him up. In other words, he gave him to be an offering. In other words, he was put in a position where he said, Lord, if that's what you want, then as he was going through the process in the mind of Abraham, and of course we know that he would have taken Isaac's life, but the angel stopped him and said, no, you've proven to God that you're faithful, and you don't need to take his life. So the Bible uses the language then that he offered up Isaac, and he that had received the promises offered up his only begotten son. So he was in the position to do that. He would have done it. We know that, and we know that from the story. But here's really what I want to speak about today, the word accounting, that God was able to raise him up even from the dead. Now, what does that mean? When I looked up the word accounting there in my Strong's Concordance, the Greek word here is, let's see if I can pronounce it right, logid zamahi. Logid zamahi. You don't have to remember that. Logid zamahi. And I looked at that, and of course, this is the only time it's used in the Bible. But the other words that are translated in our King James Bible from that same Greek word are words like this: conclude, count, despise, that's interesting, esteem, impute, lay, number, reason, reckon, suppose, or think on. So by definition, the word means to take an inventory or to estimate. And I love that because here's basically what the Bible is telling us about Abraham and about anybody that lives by faith. But in this case, the only time the word accounting is used in the entire Bible, and it's used here as Abraham is saying to himself. He said, look, I know who God is. I know what he's done in the past. I know what his character is. I know what kind of blessings he's bestowed upon me. I know what I've seen God in action, so to speak. So Abraham concluded. Abraham reckoned. Abraham was saying, God has a track record, and I know what he's able to do, and therefore I'm going to act on that faith that I know that God is. In fact, whoever God is, I know who he is because this is what I'm concluding. I'm accounting. It's like you looking at somebody and saying, I've seen them do something, and I figured they can do it again, and I'm accounting. So as we close out this year and we go into the new year, here's just a thought I had. When we take inventory of God in our lives, there is no logical reason. And I love to use it. You say, well, we don't use logic. Well, yeah, we do. Abraham used logic. Now, he lived by faith. The Bible tells us that Abraham believed God, and it was accounted unto him for righteousness. That was the other verse I was going to use. So I thought, no, I'm going to say that. I've just said that. But Abraham, in terms of looking at God, says God already has done some things, and God can still do the same things. So whatever God has done in your life or whatever God has done in my life as we close out this year, and you just take this year alone, besides all the years that we've lived, and you could go back in time and figure on what God has done and what he's done for you, and I get that. So, but if we just took this 1 year alone, what God has done for us, we can account that God is able to do the things that he can do in 2022, whatever it is. In this case, Abraham says, I believe that God can raise my son from the dead because he knew about God. That wasn't just wishful thinking. He said, I'm accounting, I'm figuring, I'm reckoning, I'm concluding that God is able to do this. So you know what? Same thing with us. You account that God is able to do the things that God's going to do for you this year, not just because it says it in the Bible, of course it does, but you can account that, obviously, from looking at all the things in the Bible. But take your own life and say, you know what? I could just take my life and say, you know what? Here's what God has done for me, or here's what I've seen God do. And I can account, I can figure, I can reckon, I can conclude that God is going to do some great things, miraculous things, the divine things that God does and that God is, and we can figure on that. So we went a little bit longer today, but it is the last day of the year, and we're going to see you on Monday, which is going to be January the 3rd. So we can truthfully say, I will see you next year. Lord willing, of course, for you and for me. But until then, have a happy new year. And we say goodbye to 2021 just a few hours. And then, of course, a new year. But you know what? We can account. We're accounting just like Abraham did, that God can do and will do what he's always done by our own experience, certainly by the Bible and what it says about who God is and what he's done. But that's a great thing to go into 2022 knowing that. So have a great day, and we'll see you on Monday.